I think being authentic is really great in the long run. If you feel really passionate about something, let that passion carry through your conversation, through your writing, through the projects that you pursue. Because if you are doing it just for the sake of doing it, the success is not guaranteed. But if you're doing it because you're passionate about it and really believe in it, I think success will find you.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inner Wealth, the Forbes Ignite podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Cacal, CEO of Forbes Ignite, and every week I'll be sharing with you my conversations with unique, creative, and innovative people across all different industries. These are people who are intellectually curious explorers who are also redefining what it means to be successful today. From personal to professional, we cover it all to understand what drives our guests to blaze their own trails and create nimble solutions within the industries that touch each of our lives. Our guest today is Meghna Tare, the Chief Sustainability Officer at the University of Texas at Arlington. Meghna is a powerhouse in the sustainability space, even beyond academia. She is passionate about working on policy implementation for a variety of topics while stepping outside of her comfort zone. She also empowers her students and mentees to mobilize and get involved in initiatives that enable them to learn and get experience with the UN Sustainable Development Goals. We talk about everything from the life-changing importance of mentorship, sustainability from both a global and local perspective, and empowering the youth to start the sustainability conversation in their personal and soon-to-be professional lives. I know you're gonna love what she has to say. Here's our chat. Hi, Meghna. How's it going? It's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Nicole.
It's been a while. I know that you've participated in some sessions with us toward the end of the year. And so we always love having you. And I thought we need to definitely do a podcast together because you always have so many amazing things to say. And so we thought, why is this not being recorded?
Yes, I really enjoyed those sessions with you and I've learned so much in the process. It was exciting to be part of those conversations with you and the others. And I'm thrilled to be here talking to you again.
I'm just curious, what have you been up to lately?
I can't believe it's been 2 years, since the pandemic started. And, you read everywhere, talk to everyone, how they have redefined and realigned their life in the pandemic and kind of have found new focus on things that they really wanted to do. And I think I've done the same, the past year or so, I have really focused a lot on my health, which, everybody knows that you need to pay attention to your health, the kind of food that you eat, exercising, getting good night's sleep, but you never get around to it because there's just never enough time. You're juggling so many things. So I think personally, I have really focused on my health in the past 1 year, eating well, sleeping well, exercising, but I've also taken up running, which I really love,
Amazing.
It's nice to find that I am able to do that. And there is like a half marathon that I'm training for in June in Grand Teton, and I'm really excited about that. So personally, that has been great. I'm a mother of twin boys and seeing them navigate the challenges of the pandemic with a lot of grace has been a very rewarding experience. Personally, other than work, I have started taking up a little bit of volunteering. So I have been mentoring some high school students. Initially, I started doing it informally, because the students reached out to me for help, some in my neighbors in my community at UT Arlington or some neighboring schools. And so I would just help them out. But recently, we are in the Frisco ISD school district, and I joined their independent study and mentorship program as a volunteer to be a mentor to high achieving high school students as they step into this new world of academics and college admissions, kind of just helping shape their journey, helping them overcome the challenges, empowering them as their own change agents. That has been really a lot of fun because I think the opportunity to understand students' aspiration, realizing their fears and providing that support has been, as an advocate, has been really, really rewarding to me. So I'm really enjoying that. And professionally at work, with all the challenges of the pandemic, I know we are all juggling a lot of things. But last year, I launched this really new initiative called the North Texas Food Policy Alliance. Now, everybody talks about how the pandemic has exposed some of the challenges that we are facing in the food systems, right? And the people who are struggling, not just for healthcare and education, but also access to food. I believe that as an academic person or as an educator, I think universities have the power to bring everybody together to the table to talk about what are these challenges, why do we have it, and how do we address to overcome them. So I started reading a lot, did a lot of research, and started this North Texas Food Policy Alliance, which brings lot of stakeholders from the region together to the table to talk about equitable and resilient food system for the North Texas region, but also how can we address them as capacity building and sharing of resources and more from an education perspective. So that has been a lot of fun. We actually hosted a summit in September of last year to sort of contribute to the global dialogue of the UN Food System Summit about the challenges of the North Texas. So that was really exciting.
No, that's incredible. All of this sounds amazing. And what I admire about you the most is that you not only work at a university where your plate naturally is full and you're working with a lot of college students, but you're also extending your expertise and your insights to high school students. And so I'm wondering, what kind of juxtaposition have you experienced with mentoring all different types of students?
I think all the students or the youth that I come across in my work through UT Arlington or through these various initiatives that I have, I feel like they're really passionate about sustainability and how the world is changing in terms of climate change and sustainable development. There are always some drawbacks, it's like in terms of the resources that they have, right? And I feel as an educator, my job is to provide them those resources and help them not just learn from an educational perspective, but also how do you go out in the world and implement the learnings that you have through your education, be it at high school or academic institution.
That's amazing. And so I would love to know what inspired you to get into academia?
I think I've been at UT Arlington for almost 12 years now, and I absolutely love it. And the best thing I like about working for an academic institution or a university is the expansive nature that you're exposed to. And by that, I mean like the growth and development, they aren't just limited to what you're doing every day or getting better at the same thing, but we have the flexibility to move outwards and sideways. I implement sustainability in operations on campus, from recycling to transportation, composting, community garden. But I also have the flexibility to work on policy implementations within the region, work with North Central Texas Council of Governments, other local government, nonprofit organizations, grassroots organizations on a variety of topics aligned with sustainability, but which also aligns with the strategic plan that UT Arlington has, right? So it gives me, you kind of step outside of your comfort zone and work on something. And then you have this aha moment of, oh, wow, why didn't anybody work on this before, right? It's like, why is it that there is a gap here? And I feel empowered to be able to do that under the guidance of an academic institution through education as the cornerstone.
What are some of the gaps that you just mentioned that come to the forefront of your mind?
I think it's an alignment of strategies, because North Texas region is so big. Everybody has their own strategies or own initiatives and programs that they need to work on, but the resources are always constrained, right? So that is where I love to come in and bring people together in a collaborative fashion to say that, well, you all are working on the same things. You are short of this resource and the other person is short of this resource. Why not join hand and work together towards the same goal, which is sustainable development for the North Texas region? And also coming from an academic institution, I think we offer the power of students for them to be part of some of these impressive programs that we work on. It gives them the learning and the experience that they need. And we love to work with the youth.
I'm just very curious because you do so many incredible things, and I'd love to know what your story is. What was your personal and professional journey into becoming a sustainability expert?
Yeah, I was born and raised in India, right? So I came to the US in 2000 as a student, but I was born in a very small town called Nagpur in central India. But somehow I was always fascinated by the world of environmental science, and sustainability was not even a buzzword in the 90s, right? So I was fortunate enough that the town where I grew in offered a bachelor's degree in environmental science. And so I pursued that. And then I came to the US in 2000 as a student at University of San Francisco to pursue a degree in chemistry because my undergraduate was in environmental chemistry. But my heart was still in policy making. That's what I really love about environmental science and sustainability. So I went ahead and pursued another degree in environmental science, a master's in environmental studies from San Jose State. And while I was studying there, climate change was a big topic of conversation, especially in California. And I really wanted to study climate change. So, you always have this one person in your life who changes the trajectory of your growth, be it personal or professional. And for me, that one person was Professor Stephen Schneider. He was a professor at Stanford University, a professor of environmental biology and global change. And he was also the co-director for the Center for Environmental Science and Policy and also advisor to the White House. And he was really at the forefront of the climate change discussion. And so, I just reached out to him and I said, hey, I want to work on climate change as my topic for research, but would you be willing to mentor me and guide me and be an academic advisor? I did not expect a response, but he was so nice. He responded back to me and said, yes, I would love to help you out and be your advisor and guide you. And for 2 years, I kind of worked with him on the 21st century impact of climate change in California, especially forest fires. And that was just a amazing experience. And I think he is the one person who changed the course of my life. I owe it to him, all my success, all my growth, and my passion for sustainability. I owe it to him. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2010. So I can't thank him in person, but he was amazing. And it really set me on this path of climate change and sustainability. And so after I graduated, I started working for City of Dallas. I relocated from California to Dallas and started working for the City of Dallas as an environmental and sustainability manager. And from there, I moved into academia at University of Texas at Arlington.
Wow, that is such a powerful story. And it's not every day that you get to hear about these stories where someone changes the trajectory of your life because of their kindness, their spirit of generosity. It really just shows, and it has molded the way that you approach not just sustainability, but your entire career trajectory. That's incredible.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, he was so amazing, like a person like him who actually helped me out. I actually presented with him at the governor's conference on climate change, and he came to my thesis defense and always helped me. And I think I carry that with me. And so every time a student reaches out to me for help or guidance, I make it a point to help them out, because I've learned from that that one person can change the course of your life, which is why I enjoy being a mentor with the Frisco ISD, or, mentoring high school students or even the students at UT Arlington.
Yeah, you can just imagine how many lives you've changed personally. So what kind of advice would you give somebody that is looking or seeking mentorship or some sort of guidance in things that they're passionate about?
So my, 2 cents to the students who work with me, and I see this all the time. I teach a class on Introduction to Environmental Sustainability every semester at UT Arlington, once a year at UT Arlington, spring semester. And some of the students that I come across, they are just so passionate about sustainability, and they will go above and beyond what they are taught in the classwork or the assignments that they have to submit. And you can see the passion because they are in touch with me even after the semester has ended. It's like, how can I work with UTA? How can I help you out? I'm really passionate about this project. So I really feel like if you're really passionate about it, take it forward in your conversations, in the things that you read and the projects that you pursue, because it will find its way and it will be a part of your life naturally without having to take that extra effort.
Absolutely. I'm curious, how long have you been teaching that class?
I've been teaching it for 4 years now. So I teach once a year, either spring or fall semester, and I typically have 30 to 35 students from a variety of background, architecture, geology, environmental science, and even public policy.
Wow. Have you noticed any changes across the years of teaching this course, how different students approach sustainability and environmentalism?
Yeah, I think one thing I've noticed, which is why I think education is an important tool that will help guide the conversation about sustainability and climate change in the long run, because I see that over the course of the semester, that when you start till the end, the change that happens in the students and the things that they pay attention to, it's really, really very inspiring. I have seen students change out their entire pantry with food that is not processed, more organic, throwing away all their old cosmetics, or even changing, their laundry detergent and things like that. So that education really helps change their mental behavior but also how they communicate with the rest of their family and friends. And I always have those fun stories. Like, I had this Thanksgiving dinner with my family and friends, and we had this conversation about why using water bottles is not good. And those stories are really inspiring, because it means that they not only learned in the class, but they took it forward to their colleagues and friends and family, which is how I think change happens in a society.
Exactly. It all starts with one person, and you get that cumulative effect that inspires the masses. Well, hopefully it does.
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm curious, how do you think companies or organizations or the industry can learn from these students that are coming out into the workforce that are learning these disciplines?
I think private sector and corporate sector is a big part of the conversation, right? I truly believe in the symbiotic relationship of the public sector and the private sector. And I think that academia has a social responsibility to practice what we advocate or what we teach in the classes, so that the students can become an agent of change, because universities sort of act as catalysts for sustainability efforts, not in just the cities in which they are located, but also the surrounding areas. And they have an opportunity to influence the community, but also the students, faculty who are part of that conversation, so that when a student graduates, they take that mentality, they take that learning to the workplace and help to make that workplace a better in terms of, whatever it can be. It can be promoting recycling or reducing food waste, or promoting for bike share program, or just forming an office green team. Somebody has to start the conversation. And once the conversation is started, it gathers a momentum and an energy and enthusiasm of its own and goes forward. So I think the students that graduate from universities, they can go into the private sector and really help bring about that change and be part of the conversation. And I think we should offer some specific technical expertise for them, right? For example, a student who is interested in architecture, he or she should be equipped with like a green associate or a lead AP certification as they go out into the world and work with the private sector. Or if somebody is interested in corporate sustainability, having certification like GRI or CDP, how the CDP works, all those kinds of things will really help them work in the new corporate workplace.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. What is GRI or CDP?
GRI is Global Reporting Initiative. CDP is the Climate Disclosure Project. And GRI, I love GRI because it is a global framework that is used mostly for private sector for their sustainability reporting and strategy and reporting on their data, which is based on the social, environment, and government pillars of sustainability. And mostly private sector uses GRI, but there are very few academic institutions that have been using GRI as a framework to do their sustainability reporting. And I'm very proud to say that UT Arlington is one of those seven institutions in the US that reports on their sustainability program using GRI framework, which not only talks about the environmental impacts, right? Which not only talks about recycling or transportation, but it talks about diversity, inclusion, your social impact in the community, in the city where you are located, what kind of training is offered to faculty, staff, and students, what kind of engagement opportunities are offered. So it's very inclusive. And I really love that model and framework for organizations to report on their sustainability performance over a period of time.
So it sounds like this GRI framework is all encompassing and more institutions should be adopting it. So what would you tell a neighboring organization or people in the private sector in terms of how they can implement that in their work?
I think GRI is really, it's voluntary, so nobody's required to do it, but I think it really helps you strategize your sustainability indicators, your goals and performance over a period of time. So, I know most private sectors do it, but my recommendation is use that as a framework to at least get started, those who are not doing it, because it really helps, first of all, understand how much you are doing, because you have to collect a lot of data and information for the reporting. And it gives you a chance to think of what are the initiatives that I could be working towards in, say, 2-year or a 5-year time frame. And I think if you're improving, that itself is great for organizations to work on.
So all it takes is just to get started. And this framework can help you do that. So thank you so much for mentioning that. There's a lot of frameworks that are out there. There is a plethora of that.
Yes.
And it's hard to navigate that. So this is extremely helpful. So thank you. I'm wondering, what do you think the role of a community anchor institution like a university has in sustainability and the work that you do?
I think academic institutions, they play a very important role because they can a variety of issues, right? Using education as the tool, right? You can encourage people to change their attitudes and behavior, which I've demonstrated. But it also helps you to make informed decisions. I truly believe that students or youth who are taught the impact of things like climate change or global warming, they know how to work towards it or to adapt to those changes going forward. It empowers everyone and motivates them to take action. So at UT Arlington in 2019, we launched a regional center of expertise for education on sustainable development, which is an initiative of the United Nations University. And it's a global initiative. There are 181 RCEs is what it's called, 181 RCEs across the world. And I believe there are 8 or 9 in the United States. And the reason for doing that was I wanted to help with sustainable development movement in the North Texas through education as the framework, right? So if you look at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, those 17 goals, we really focused on goal 4, quality education, as the cornerstone to move the needle on sustainable development. But then the idea was you bring all the stakeholders to the table and we said, what do you think are the challenges of North Texas? And out of these 17 SDGs, which do you think are more relevant for us to work towards? And as a consensus, we decided, well, quality education is definitely one, but SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, and SDG 3, good health and well-being, are some of the goals that we need to work towards in the region. And so UTA as an academic institution, sort of under the umbrella of this RCE, brought private sector, public sector, other academic institutions in the region, and a couple of nonprofit to work towards those goals through some projects that we have implemented. And we actually have received awards from the United Nations University for the past 3 years for 3 different projects that we implemented under the RCE guideline. So that has been very, very exciting.
No, that is so incredible. And congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell me more about the work that you're doing specifically with the UN Sustainability Development Goals and how that ties into the North Texas Food Alliance that you created. What inspired that?
It was a sort of, this, like I said, it's like this aha moment of where the United Nations has put forward the 17 goals, sort of a guidelines for people to work together. And they are like an umbrella goals. You can tailor it for the region based on your regional challenges. And when we launched the Regional Center of Expertise for Education for Sustainable Development, it was really very well received with a lot of enthusiasm and participation. So that kind of gave me a little confidence to know that people do pay attention to this. People are passionate about this. And UTA is such a large organization that, bringing everybody together was really important for us. And so when we did that, we did a couple of projects. For example, there's one project that we successfully implemented in 2021 in partnership with ICLEI, the International Council for Local Environmental Initiative, and the University of Melbourne, which was called as the Sustainable Cities Challenge, where we brought in a cohort of 9 local government and did like a 9-month-long learning cohort to help the cities towards their strategic planning using the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a framework and helping them with the voluntary local review that's available for, that City of New York and LA has done. And that cohort learning was a great experience because first, you see what are the challenges that local government faces. And second, having that conversation really makes you think that this is what we need to overcome in, say, 4 years or 5 years, and this is how we do it. And that project was really very successful, very well received. There's going to be another cohort in 2022 with other local governments. And then the North Texas Food Policy Alliance was also launched in support of the RCE North Texas and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, just to address the challenges of food systems in the North Texas region. But more, I also want to involve students at UTA. So we have been very successful in engaging with passionate students on campus. For example, in the pandemic in 2020, we launched a food recovery network on campus, and it was completely started by students, student-led chapter, where they go and collect the leftover food from the cafeteria at the end of the day and take it and donate it to a local nonprofit who is in need of that food, like Mission Arlington. And the idea is that the food is not wasted. UTA started a food pantry on campus for UTA students. So some of these movements were like really inspiring to me. And it's like, why not have a collective impact and start this alliance where we have conversations with folks in the region who are working towards equitable and resilient food system, but also we can offer the resources of an academic institution, the place to meet, the place for conference, research, and the power of the youth. So that has been really rewarding.
So I'm hearing, based on what you're telling me, that you have a number of superpowers, Meghna.
Thank you, Nicole.
I would say your first superpower is your convening power and getting the alignment that's needed in order to make things happen. And I would say your second superpower is taking global issues and addressing them locally. That's extremely powerful. And being able to do that, it goes a very long way. And you have a lot of influence and you have a lot of impact specifically, not just in Texas, but think about where the students go after they graduate.
Yes, I truly love that. I love working with people. I think that's my strength. I love working with people. I love bringing them together. And I'm a big ideas person. You're right. I love to work on big ideas and implement them in small steps, and seeing them successful over 2 years or 3 years really gives me a lot of joy. And the fact that it creates this impact and changes the life of students in terms of what they learn and what they are part of, that is very rewarding for me.
How has your upbringing influenced or structured the way that you approach student learning and education?
That's a great question, Nicole. Like I said, right, I teach a class on sustainability, and sometimes the students come with a very blank slate, because they are a little oblivious to what's happening in the world of sustainability and climate change outside of Texas. I was born and raised in India with a very modest background, having lived through that, the challenges of not having access to clean water all the time, or not having access to electricity all the time, studying for an exam under a lamp, or having to add alum to filter out your water. Those kind of experiences really makes you pay attention to these problems and you want to help, right? And so I think exposing students to that kind of a conversation really helps them understand why we need to work towards sustainability, or why we need to work towards climate change, because this is not a problem for this generation, but it's a problem for the next few generations. And those kind of experiences that I share from my upbringing, from my life till now, connect the dots for the students, because, I think sustainability is all about systems thinking, like how everything is part of the puzzle. You cannot look at a problem in silo. So at the end of the semester, when the students actually get the point of systems thinking in sustainability, like climate change, food, water, transportation, waste reduction, you all have to work it in a systemic way to address a bigger problem like climate change. That joy and that realization is truly wonderful.
Yeah, that's incredible. So when it comes to addressing the climate crisis or using the UN sustainability goals, what do you think needs to happen as part of a boots on the ground level versus a high strategic level?
I think climate change is just like sustainability is such a broad topic, right? Climate change includes everything from, equity, environmental justice, climate action plans, strategic planning. So I think the important thing is educating the people about what are the impacts of climate change, right? Like even the difference between climate change and global warming, right? That itself helps a lot of people. But I do not believe in the gloom and doom situation, right? Like you do not have to show a slide that is all gloom and doom to make people pay attention to how important climate change is. Because I believe that when you scare people into doing something, once the fear is gone away, people don't pay attention to it anymore. So I truly believe that educating them, helping them change behavior one step at a time really helps. And then some of these collaborative projects that we have launched, I truly believe in bringing the public and the private sector together to work on climate change. And through the RCEs, the projects that we have been doing where we work with a lot of private sector in the region, I think that has long lasting impact. And also the regional challenges are very different, right? Both the challenges that we faced in Texas in terms of climate change are very different than the challenges for East Coast or California. And so you really have to do sort of a SWOT analysis for your region. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my threats? And what are my opportunities? And do a gap analysis and go from there and, figure out the things that your region needs in 10 years or 15 years and work towards that in a systemic fashion, I think that really helps. But like again, like I said, being from an academic institution, I truly believe education is something that is the first step in helping make that change and bring people on board.
Absolutely. And I always ask every single one of my guests this question. So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. What is your definition of success?
That's a good one. Okay. I think for me, the definition of success would be authentic in what I do, because it means that I am true to myself in bringing about change and working towards sustainability. And then the success is something that follows. I listened to this podcast on NPR called How I Built This with Kairos, where he always talks, the founder of these companies, and he has the same last question for everybody. It's like, your success, is it because of hard work or is it because of luck? And almost everybody says that it is 50-50. I worked hard a lot, but some things also happened at the right time, and that is because of luck. And I think success is at the intersection of that, being authentic, but also working hard towards achieving that goal over a period of time.
I love that. That's a great definition in my book.
Thank you.
Well, Meghna, it was such a pleasure speaking with you. And thank you so much again for hopping on a call with me. And I can't wait to do this again.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me, Nicole. I truly enjoyed this conversation.
That's it for this week's episode of Inner Wealth. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and that you'll join us next week as we continue to explore all the ways success is being redefined in our ever-changing world. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite podcast app. And follow us on Instagram at Forbes Ignite for more thought-provoking content and opportunities to engage with us. I'm your host, Nicole Cacal. Thanks for joining us.